the odd thing, right? When you look at this, watch how this gun kind of configures.
And de-escalate the situation verbally before ever even having to take a shot. Here's how it works. It consists of two main parts. These two parts bend by a hinge in the middle at an approximate 60-degree angle to allow for the operator to shoot around corners and barriers from a concealed position using a camera system to see where the gun is pointed.
For nearly a month now, I have held back from saying anything about the brutal assassination of Charlie Kirk, partly because of the confusion that surrounded the narrative and the need to let the dust settle so the truth could surface. But now the pieces are finally coming together, the evidence is tightening, and Israel's dirty fingerprints are showing clearly across this story. Reports emerging from investigators suggest that the shooter may have been much closer to Charlie that day than anyone was told, perhaps even one of his own security details or someone with a concealed weapon nearby, and not a distant gunman, as the mainstream version insists.
All right, so you see where the gun is pointed. Now, the other thing is, too, the Glock that's sitting in there, once it's clasped into there, when you flip that thing up like this here, underneath, I should say, right when you have it flipped, let's say this is like that, and it's flipped up underneath there, you now have the ejection part of the gun caught between where the barrel is sticking through and maybe that little flap of the tent. Maybe the tent's kind of like this, kind of pushed out because they've got that barrel pushed in there just enough. But now it's allowing the ejection for the shell casing to fall through, and they probably did not consider that. So when they put that gun in there, they fired that thing, but they didn't consider the fact that the casing is going to fall to the inside of the tent. They never expected that their shell casing was going to be visual to everyone else that's standing around watching this. So when Colin picked that up the other day, and he catches that shell casing falling down, right? Here we go. We're going to pick that up again. By the way, that's where it closes up at. That's that part that I'd show. We were sitting there back and forth, and Colin was looking at it on his side. I was looking on my side. So just slow it down and look at it. There goes that shell casing. See it right there? Perfect shell casing.
Chris Martenson made an excellent point on this, which aligns perfectly with the video evidence from the scene showing why the bullet trajectory and impact don't fit the official story. The way the body moved, the way the crowd reacted, it all screams proximity, not distance. After his argument, I'll play you the footage and break down what I think happened. Like this video now to fight YouTube's suppression, and subscribe if you haven't already so they don't bury this report in the algorithm. Take a listen.
Look, we were presented a scenario very quickly that there was a lone shooter, and we had that grainy potato cam footage of somebody jumping off a roof, and it was established very quickly that there was one person that we were looking for. Also, that gave us the shooting scene. So they really presented us with that right away, that there was this one spot. It's a spot is about 140 yards away. There's indents in the roof. We can calculate all kinds of things from that. But to get to your point, where that shot was allegedly taken from with the weapon allegedly used, which is a 30-06, the wound is entirely inconsistent with that weapon in that spot. It really just couldn't have happened exactly like they said. So what was the shot? The shot was taken from here. It would have come in. This is a still taken from Charlie's left, just from a video just before the shot rang out. You can see he's a little slouched. He's a little slouched, and that red dotted line is transecting his throat about where the wound appeared and at a 10-degree angle. And here at this angle, that wound trajectory is going to miss. It's not going to hit any bones whatsoever. This is a still taken right after he was shot. This is the wound we see right here. I think there's a little blood on the t-shirt there. This would be his center line where the spine would be located. So at a 10-degree angle, without considering the other off-axis angle, this thing is coming down and it's going to skip. There's no bones in the way here whatsoever. He went right into what's called a pugilist pose immediately. So the right hand you can see is clenched in that. It's called a decorticate posturing position. It speaks to a neuronal damage at about the midbrain. And so that's a pretty common thing you see with people if they really fall and hit their head hard, particularly from the back. They can go into that pose very quickly. It tells us something, though, very important, which is that he still has, the nerves are still intact, because if you ever get your spinal column completely transected, you just go limp. You go completely, there's no muscle tone possible. So this tells us something, that he still has neuronal connection, at least through what's called the C8 nerve, the cervical, the eighth nerve. It's intact. This is kind of what an entrance wound would look like. They're very small. This is an exit wound. This is from a deer. It's passing through about 12 inches of deer body here. Just to reinforce the idea that wound we saw on the front confused a lot of people because it didn't look like an entrance wound. Now we'll take it a little bit further. If this is the 10-degree downslope, this person's hunched over a little bit, I think in the exact same posture as Charlie, close as we can. Theoretically, maybe if the wound was lower than we thought for some reason, you could maybe encounter the top of the first rib, but here we would expect this bullet, if it did, to go up this way. As well, we have that other 10-degree angle where this would be perfectly orthogonal coming straight in. This is the neck, which is smaller than the head, obviously. Here's the wound. So at a 10-degree angle, this bullet would have gone straight through about 5 inches of human neck, and it would have completely missed the spine over here, which is the thing that you would have to hit something really hard with a 30-06, even if it was kind of a low-end, lower velocity 30-06 soft point mushrooming, hunting tip. It's going to be hard to hit anything and make it bounce. The spine itself has got a pretty rigorous bone right in the body of the spine itself, but most of it's made of these really kind of wimpy things, tubercles and these spinous processes. This posterior tubercle, this would have been the thing that would have been on the side of Charlie's neck. That would have been the only bone that could have possibly been in the way slightly at a 10-degree angle. Here we can see cross-section of a human neck at about the C7 level, which is where that round came in. And it would have come in here, made this hole, obviously completely transected the jugular vein, probably done a lot of damage to the carotid vein as well, just because of the explosive mushrooming that happens and the cavitation. But as you can see, this would have gone straight through basically nothing. This is a very easy through and through round. There's really no bones in the way. And the way ballistics works is bullets go in a straight line until and unless something acts on them.
Utah law mandates that every homicide must undergo a full autopsy with toxicology, wound mapping, and ballistics testing to rule out manipulation or hidden causes. Yet leaked emergency dispatch audio now reveals that no autopsy was ever done on Kirk's body. Instead, a hospital doctor simply signed the death certificate and moved on. An unbelievable breach of procedure for a political assassination, confirmed by multiple sources, including podcaster Hustlebitch, who played the clip saying he did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital. That kind of bypass is unheard of, and it effectively destroys the primary line of physical evidence, the body itself. Conspiracy analysts argue that this reeks of a federal cover-up, with reports that FBI agents pressured Utah officials to close the case quickly and avoid deeper forensic scrutiny. If it were truly a lone shooter, there'd be no reason to rush. Transparency would clear doubts and rebuild trust. But secrecy like this only protects those with something to hide. Possibly insiders within law enforcement or intelligence networks who viewed Charlie as a liability after his relentless criticism of establishment figures and foreign entanglements. Emerging testimony from insiders, including a mortician's analysis leaked through independent channels, describes Kirk's wounds as inconsistent with a single direct shot. Investigator Ian Carroll claims an autopsy source mentioned that Kirk's chest was caved in from a ricochet, not a straight-line bullet, meaning the projectile likely bounced off a nearby surface before impact, which implies a second shooter position or a carefully staged misdirection to create confusion. This fits perfectly with Stephen Gardner's breakdown, citing mismatched ballistics and incompatible firing angles that don't align with the alleged weapon or Robinson's location. A textbook setup that frames a convenient scapegoat while the real operators walk free. If this is true, then we're looking at a professional hit masked as a lone wolf tragedy, echoing the suspicious pattern seen in the 2024 Trump assassination attempt, where Thomas Matthew Crook's body was cremated in record time, eliminating crucial evidence before full investigation, and now we see the same script playing out again. No official radiology released, no forensic images, contradictory claims about bullet recovery, an entry wound in the neck but no exit, and silence from the authorities. This kind of pattern doesn't happen by accident. It's coordination, it's concealment, it's control, and it points to forces that wanted Charlie Kirk silenced permanently before his next expose could land. Thank you for watching. Support this work by liking and subscribing to help push it past the censorship barrier. Until next time, God bless you.